Warning.
All personnel, please exit immediately.
You are now on an apostate webpage. You are now on an apostate webpage. You are
Warning.
now on an
Personnel, please
apostate
exit
webpage.
immediately.
You are now on an apostate webpage.
Det er lige rundt om hjørnet.
Velkommen til we will start with the song number 59, and then we give this is not the Kingdom Hall. I am so thrilled to see so many participants here, and nobody is afraid of the streaming. You're not. If it is, you can duck your head and then crawl out. Yeah. Like what I want you to do. No.
Like the snake in paradise.
Like the snake in paradise without the legs. It's a big honor to have Patrick and his wife, Belinda, here in Copenhagen. And maybe you don't know the story already, but we wrote a little bit, and I thought we could make a podcast over the Zoom. And he said, Patrick, but why? I can come to Copenhagen. It's only 12 hours drive away from here. And he's been here since Friday, him and Belinda. And Simon has had the courtesy to have them at your house. And now we have sandwiches and everything is just lovely. It's so good to see you all. And I know from earlier today, Patrick was a little bit concerned. He was a little anxious. So I took him to Christiania. So he had a little joint. So now he's totally calm. He's not nervous anymore. So without further ado, let's give him a big hand.
Thank you. In fact, the honor is mine to see so many people who experience the same bad things in the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses. And the worst thing of all bad things is for sure the shunning. You can talk about blood transfusion, but the only reason why people are enforced to refuse a blood transfusion is because they are afraid of being disfellowshipped, connected to shunning. So I'm going to give you a quick overview over what happened during the past years, how we got where we are now. So it was a step by step, and it took a long time. So you know that we started in 2011. In 2011, I was a disfellowshipped myself, because I had shared a PowerPoint in which I proved by using Watchtower publications, uniquely Watchtower publications, that the 1914 was a lie. So this was an apostate. I was disfellowshipped instantly. So good. So that means that I have no problem with my conscience. I'm not disfellowshipped because I committed adultery or I steal something or I murdered someone. No, it's just because I was an apostate from the first day I was out of Jehovah's Witnesses. So that meant that I had the energy to encourage others to tell their story, to come out with their story. I collected everything and I put it in a trial, in a court case. So a little bit history. The idea of splitting shunning from disfellowshipping is not coming from me, but is coming from another Belgian. That's Jacques Lejeune. And Jacques Lejeune is accountable. He makes lots of numbers, and he was a GW for years. And at a certain moment, the ministerial servant in his congregation, who was taking care for the money in the congregation, was disfellowshipped because he was accused of stealing money. And the poor brother, let us call him a brother. The poor brother didn't do anything. He was an honest guy. So he went to Jacques and he said, Jacques, you're a specialist in accounting. And he said, I cannot prove that I didn't steal, but maybe I have a copy of the account of the congregation. Maybe you can find out what happened. And he found out that it was an elder who stole the money. So Jacques went to the elders and he said, look, I had contact with a brother who is a disfellowship. I said, what? Then we have to disfellowship you as well? Yeah, he said, but he is disfellowshipped completely innocent. And they said, doesn't matter, you broke the rule not to have contact with a disfellowshipped one, so we disfellowship you too. And he said, well, I'm going to court. And he went to court and he lost the whole thing. Although he was explaining the shunning rule as good as I did it before court. But let's see where it went wrong. The choice of the court was the civil court, and that meant it was not the good court, yeah, because it was going about a criminal fact. No group complaint. He was completely alone. And Jehovah's Witnesses defended themselves by saying, oh, but this is just an isolated case, and this is not representative for a lie, of course. This is not representative for all Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses are free to do what they want, and his claim is a false claim. So this is an isolated case that has to see with the family members and nothing to see with Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay? And the isolated case, and then what was a good thing is that the court recognized the shunning as a discrimination act from the side of Jehovah's Witnesses. So there was a certain value in that case that could be used in later trials. So the process was completely ended, and he lost the case because the court said we are not responsible for this kind of religious activity. The lessons we learned out of this trial was we do not go to civil court, we go to criminal court. And I had to talk with the lawyers from Jacques, and they said, Patrick, if you want to do something, go to criminal court. And we did, and we succeeded. We were aware of the fact that the Jehovah's Witnesses will use the element of this is an isolated case. They would use it again and again and again. So we needed more stories to collect together and to bring it together to the judge. So another thing was that there must be created an awareness in the victims themselves. The victims are very often victims that say, oh yeah, but you know, we are sinners, we committed adultery, or I slept with my boyfriend. Yeah, okay, you have a guilty conscience, and that makes that victims do not always recognize the crime that is committed by Jehovah's Witnesses. They think, oh, this is the punishment I deserve. But is that so? So I'm going to show you what we did to help those people out. In any case, if you want to copy something about the court case in Belgium, then know that it is good to prepare. Failing to prepare is prepare for failure. Yeah. The first meeting in Ghent was in 2012, 1 year later, after I had heard hundreds of stories, horrible stories. Belinda and I never asked to come to our house. We took the car, we drove sometimes 200 kilometers just to listen to people, and we heard horrible stories. We've seen horrible things, people committing suicide after having spoken to us and being corrected by Jehovah's Witnesses. It was a horrible thing to do, but we knew that we were not alone and that there were thousands out of the organization, and we can prevent that another few thousands will be victims of the same system. So we had to do something about it. How many ex-members of Jehovah's Witnesses are there? And little by little, we saw that there are literally thousands of people suffering from the same thing, the shunning. So know that you are not alone. Yesterday, we had contact, Frank and I, with the guys in Holland who were gathering 2 months ago together with me in the same kind of speech. They are in the track of creating a foundation. They have contact with the lawyers. They have contact with the ministers and parliament. So they are on the good track. And so I'm not interested to be involved in the local situation. The only thing I want to do is share my experience. And if you have some inspiration on that basis, please go on and let me know what the result is. So it's good to know that you are not alone. So then another thing that we explained in the first meeting in Ghent, that there is a big difference between a religious organization and a cultic organization. And a cultic organization, because you can easily say it's a cult, yeah? But it's better to speak about a religious organization with cultic characteristics. And if you compare it to the Roman Catholic Church, which has certainly cultic characteristics, they have a leader, the Pope, and the Pope is the one who is holy and infallible. That is a characteristic that is typical for a cultic organization. But if you compare it to the Roman Catholic Church 500 years ago, then you had the Inquisition, you had the torture, physical torture, you had the fire stake. So if you compare it, then in that time they were a criminal, murderer, religious organization, and they lost lots of cultic characteristics. Jehovah's Witnesses still have some dangerous cultic characteristics, and shunning is for sure one of them. Shunning translated out of English into the local language, even in Dutch, it is a problem to find a word that has the same load as it has in English. But there was an organization that is fighting discrimination in Belgium, and they said, in fact, shunning is giving someone a social death sentence. And that's the complete context. Yeah, that's exactly what Jehovah's Witnesses do when they disfellow someone. They give that person a social death sentence. So this is so cruel that some people end up in the psychiatry, end up committing suicide, trying to commit suicide. So the impact on a human being is so disastrous that Belinda and I said, we have to do something. We know Jehovah's Witnesses inside out. I was an elder with lots of responsibilities, nothing to be proud of, but just to say, I know the organization inside out. So if someone has to do something, well, I think I can do it. And what happened during the first meeting, we were about 50. Hi, welcome. Have a seat. I woke up by reading the book of Combating Cult Mind Control. Yeah, you know the guy. And I saw on every page, although he is never speaking about Jehovah's Witnesses, but I recognized the psychological mechanisms immediately. I could say you can find the mechanism that he explains here in that Watchtower and that study publication. You can find everything back. So the result was many of the XGWs woke up and understood that only prisons have watchtowers. But another thing was the fear of taking part in a group complaint was not gone yet. So people were still afraid. So I was having a personal, individual communication, and we got reactions as just suppose we are fighting against God. This is God's organization. So the indoctrination was still there. So the authority of the organization was still there. Some said, it's we who did wrong. We are the sinners, isn't it? After all, it's the truth, isn't it? I said, no, it's filled up with lies, and it's not the truth. If you keep calling it the truth and you speak it one to another and you say, how long were you in the truth? It's not the truth. Your subconscious will work. If you continue to call it the truth, then your subconscious will ask you, if it is the truth, why don't you go back? Yeah. But if you say, how long were you in the lie? That's a completely different thing. Then you are free. You understood that something was wrong in that organization. If you still think that it is the truth, well, give me an email and I'll send you some lies that are openly. So the lie of 1914 is only one lie. Yeah? So, but we can tell you more lies in the organization. So we needed to create a second meeting in Ghent. It was in November 2012. And then we went some deeper. Jehovah's Witnesses were re-invited by a registered letter. In that letter, I accused them of doing hate and hate speech, discrimination and inciting to discrimination. And I proved it by Watchtower articles. You all know how disfellowshipped people are called in the Watchtower. They are dogs. That's a Bible text, but they make an application to disfellowshipped persons. They say they are dogs that are returned to eat their own vomit. They are pigs that returned to roll in the mud. They are rats that needs to be destroyed in Armageddon. So if you can find all those texts back in the Watchtower, you can collect it, you can make a copy of it, you can find it online, gw.org, Danish, and you find all those texts back, and you can send a copy to your lawyer, who will bring it to the judge, and you're done. So you can prove that there is a lot of bad things behind the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses. So we explained the mind control. We showed how the mind control functions, how they use claiming having authority, which makes that people easily obey. I just showed a little movie, an experiment, a psychological experiment. A young lady standing on the street and asking people, please keep the right side. And everybody is, what are you asking me now? And then she changed a little bit of clothing. She takes a yellow jacket. She has a map to make notes. She has a walkie-talkie. And then she goes in the street and said, please, sir, keep left, keep left. Everybody obeys. So authority and obedience are closely connected to each other. And if you can claim that you have authority, I'm an elder appointed by the Holy Spirit, people obey. The question is, are elders appointed by the Holy Spirit? And if so, please show me the document. Show me the email that God sent you, that you were appointed by the Holy Spirit. So if you can go through that, then you see, in fact, elders have no authority. It's just fainted authority. So people in a cultic organization live, in fact, in the fog. And what is the fog? It's a letter word for fear, obligation, guilt. So fear for Armageddon. Give me to be disfellowshipped. One example of someone who entered Jehovah's Witnesses and who said immediately, I want to go from door to door. Nobody wants to do that. They try to postpone it and postpone it and postpone it. But why are they going after some months of Bible study? Because of the responsibility, the obligation. They lay a responsibility on your shoulders. They say to you, you have you can maybe get guilty of blood, because you know what will happen with these people if Armageddon comes and they are not warned, and you could warn them. So after a while, you say, when can I join you going from door to door? So this is the result of mind control. And the third one is a guilt. Oh, you don't want to disappoint God, isn't it? Look into the book, the Staying at God's Love, I think. In the appendix is explained how to treat disfellowshipped members. And there they say, if you would say hello to a disfellowshipped person, that this could be the first step for creating a friendship. And would you disappoint God Of course not. Of course not. Yeah? So you are completely programmed, almost programmed to do what the Jehovah's Witnesses want you to do. The result, everyone present in the meeting from November 2012 understood that they were victims of Jehovah's Witnesses in a much more radical way. They were not only victims by being disfellowshipped, they were also victims by being programmed. And the program is not so easy to get it out. You have to do effort for this. We spoke to people who were 25 years out of Jehovah's Witnesses, who were sitting in our living room, and who said, well, you know, but it's 25 years ago, but if I would have been in a hospital still today, I would refuse a blood transfusion. I said, huh? Why is that? And they explained, well, after all, blood transfusion is wrong, isn't it? They said, do you really think that a doctor would advise you something that is wrong, that is against your health? She said, in fact, you're right. I said, who told you that blood transfusion is wrong? She said, Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah. I said, maybe you should think a little bit and see what can happen if you revise the whole thing. And she understood that even after 25 years, the programmation was still working. So we got the reactions from attendees in the meeting who said, Patrick, I'm 20 years out, but it was up to today that I didn't understood I was in a cult. And now I've seen it. I've understood that there is lots of cultic characteristics. There is mind control. They use fear. They use obligation. They use guilt. Yes, they do. They do. And the first stories on paper came in. Then we made the, how do you say, the triage of the stories, because some people were so enthusiastic to tell their story. And we could see that some were in danger. Some were in danger in a sense of they were still taking care of their GW parents. And I had to say to them that, watch out, if you bring this story before court, Jehovah's Witnesses will read your name. You cannot testify without a name underneath it. We are before a court and you have to be open about your personal details. And what will happen if your parents will know that that you joined this trial? They said, yeah, you are right. I don't ask you to be a victim again. I'm just looking for people who can, without endangering themselves, bring their story. We will collect them and go. I'm very glad that you brought your story to me, but just know that I'm not going to use it because of your own safety. So this is something we have to think about, because there were also stories from people who were going in and out of psychiatry because they are still suffering from the treatment that they receive from their children, from their parents. Some cannot cope with such a heavy situation, and you don't have to bring them in more danger by involving them in a court case. So we got in 2014. We had a consultation with the first lawyers, and the first reaction was, yes, Patrick, but this is a religious freedom. And I said, if this is religious freedom, then I have to change religion. I will become an extremist Muslim, and then you are a pagan dog for me, and I have to decapitate you. She said, yeah, but that's murder. Yeah, but that's my religious freedom. You just told me that I can do that. This is my religious freedom. And she said, yeah. I understand what you mean. You see, that there is a difference between disfellowshipping someone and shunning someone. Shunning is a crime. Disfellowshipping is an organizational right. I come back to that. So another thing was, you have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And there is a freedom of religion guaranteed. You can easily change of religion. You have the freedom to leave your religion. But Jehovah's Witnesses say we have freedom of religion. No, they don't have freedom of religion. Jehovah's Witnesses as an organization have no freedom of religion. Why not? Their members have it. It's the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, not organizational rights. My lawyers were looking like this, yeah? But that's a fact. It's human right, not organizational right. In fact, Article 18 says everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change religion or belief. And Article 30 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says, nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as simplifying for any state, group, or person the right to engage in any activity or to perform any act aimed at the destruction of any of the rights and freedoms set forth herein. And that's exactly what Jehovah's Witnesses do. They claim to have the organizational right of religious freedom with which they steal the religious freedom from their members. Yeah? So the consultation with the first lawyers in 2014 continued. Then it was about religious freedom, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and then the distinction between exclusion and shunning. And I give them the example of a school. We are standing in a school here. In a school, there are rules, and every pupil in the school has to sign the rules. Yeah, they have to agree with the rules. And if they break the rules, they will be warned, maybe twice, maybe 3 times. But in the end, they will be disfellowshipped. They will be excommunicated. They will be sent out of the school. So what's wrong with that? Nothing, because that is an organizational right. Every and any organization has the right to have rules on which they can decide if they accept someone or they will refuse someone. They can use it to disfellowship someone. So in court, we didn't discuss the disfellowshipping rule because I'm not longer believing what Jehovah's Witnesses believe. So I do not longer belong to that organization, and I don't want to go back to that organization. So I'm not discussing the disfellowshipping. The disfellowshipping was completely right. But just imagine, in the case of the pupil who broke the rules of the school, you are going back to that school, and the principal of the school is visiting class after class after class, telling the pupils, listen, Mr. Huppel the Pup is not longer a pupil of this school, and you have to know that if you say hello to him, if you phone him, if you play football with him, if you invite him for a party or whatever social contact, you will be sent out of school as well. You will be disfellowshipped. What do you think that would happen? He would have immediately a court case for discrimination, for giving a death sentence to the pupil who was not able to agree with the rules of the school. Yeah, so this was a huge step too far. Jehovah's Witnesses say, disfellowshipping and shunning, that's just a synonymous of each other. But it's not. It's not. Disfellowshipping is an organizational right. Shunning is a crime. Is a crime that goes back to, if you translate it in the laws of the country, it's hate. It's inciting to hate. It's discrimination. It's inciting to discrimination. And we played with those laws in the penal code. So shunning translated into the legal language is very important. If you go to the judge and you say, Judge, they are shunning me. Yeah. What law are you talking about? So you need to translate it into the local law giving of the country, of Denmark in this case. So the translation is very important. So you can find back the declaration of an aggrieved person in the map that Frank will own. If you send an email to Frank, I want a copy of the PowerPoint. I will receive. I want to receive a summary of the speech. You can receive that all from Frank. So the law in Belgium was that was used was slander and defamation. It was about insults. It was about hate and inciting to hate. It was discrimination. So we had lots of laws that were applicable. We could go to court, to criminal court. So the criminal complaint is filed in 2015. Then we were completely ready. And we had a compilation of all such shunning experiences. We had about 35, so it was very difficult for Jehovah's Witnesses now to say, oh, this is just an isolated case. No. It's a general treatment of Jehovah's Witnesses. So UNIA is a legal organization under the Ministry of Justice that is fighting discrimination in Belgium. So UNIA knew that we filed the complaint, and they filed a parallel complaint through a Brussels law firm. So we had suddenly extra lawyers in our camp. So that was a very good thing. We didn't have to pay them. They were paid by the state. And what's more, the fact that we filed the complaint, the public prosecutor immediately recognized this as a crime. He said shunning is a crime. So we didn't have to bring Jehovah's Witnesses before court. It was a public prosecutor who did, because he recognized shunning as a crime. So being shunned meant that we were victims of a crime. We could go to the insurance company and say, look, we are victims of a crime. So are you paying our lawyers? And they said, yes, you are victims of a crime. So they paid our lawyers. And you have to see if there is something possible in Denmark too, if there is a connection with legal sustainment when you are a victim of a crime in Denmark. I think normally there should exist something similar. So if you can find out that, it's a very good point, because it is more easy for people to be sure that they will not be financially ruined by paying lawyers, because the costs for lawyers are easily going up. So the judicial investigation was launched, and all victims were heard one by one. I was not present, so Jehovah's Witnesses know in the appeal court. I've read their papers, why they appealed, over 500 pages. They make a lot of smoke. They said, oh, this is just orchestrated by Patrick, and Patrick just encouraged them to tell stories that are not true. They are invented. But I was not present during the hearing by the judicial police. They were completely alone, and they were very open about what they experienced. So there is no reason to doubt about that, but they make a lot of smoke. Then Jehovah's Witnesses were invited to explain what they were doing and why they were doing it. And they just wrote a letter, and they said, I'm sorry, we are not coming because this is none of your business. This is our religious right. You have nothing to see with this. Very rude. And they refused to come. So later on, during the court case itself, they said, yeah, but we were never heard. And the judge slowly said, yes, you had the possibility to be heard, but you refused to come. so they really think they have God at their side, and they are so, they express a feeling of we are above all this, and they are not. They behave like stupids from time to time. So the strategy in presenting the whole case to the public prosecutor was that the victims of shunning are on both sides. So one of the first questions of the public prosecutor was, Patrick, what is your goal with this court case? And I said, well, please help my friends. And she said, what do you mean? You are going to court, and now you ask, help them. I said, yes. I said, help them, because I'm not attacking people. I'm attacking the behavior, the ruling of the shunning policy. That's what I'm attacking. And Jehovah's Witnesses suffer under the shunning because they miss their children who are disfellowshipped. They are on medication, antidepressive medication. They do miss the parents who are disfellowshipped. They miss the contact with their grandchildren when they are born. Those are innocent people, sometimes born outside the organization, but they cannot have contact with their grandchildren because of the children who are disfellowshipped. So I said that they are in danger as well. So please help my friends. And of course, at the site of XGWs, the victims are there as well. You have people who cannot cope with the stress and the pressure. They got depressed, they got psychiatry, they commit suicide, they try to commit suicide, lots of attempts of suicide. So please help them, because shunning helps no one. Yeah, this is just a crime. Then Jehovah's Witnesses know that shunning is damaging their own members. If you look in the Watchtower of 2011, then you have this picture, a young man leaving his house because father and mother are GWs, and the comment under the picture in the Watchtower says, the parents are devastated. So the victims are on both sides. Both suffer from the shunning. And what does it help? Who is helped by shunning? Nobody. Really nobody. So the second point in the strategy was we focused on the gigantic difference between exclusion and shunning. So you understood the difference now. So these two are not the same. They are completely different. The disfellowshipping is an organizational right that cannot be disputed. Shunning is the treatment that follows after Jehovah's Witnesses disfellowship someone. So this is a complete different things. And if you present it in this way, there is no discussion. You will see during the court case, Jehovah's Witnesses tried to bring the two together. Every time they said, yeah, but we have the right to disfellowship. And then they said, so shunning is normal. No, they are not the same, that there is a difference. And you have to watch every sentence they express, because they try to it as if it is the same, and it is not the same. There is a huge difference between those two. So the exclusion was not contested. We said, yeah, I was disfellowshipped for apostasy, and I'm an apostate. I'm not the same view to the things Jehovah's Witnesses believe, but I'm not discussing their beliefs. They can believe whatever they want. I said to the public prosecutor, I have respect for people who believe that there are yellow people on the moon. No problem. But if they try to fight people, to damage, to harm people who believe that the people on the moon are not yellow but blue, yeah, that's another thing. Then I will discuss the damage that they cause. But I respect their belief. But the moment they damage themselves or others, then it is wrong. It's against the human freedom of religion. So we focus on the granting of a social death sentence to disfellowshipped and disassociated members, not on the exclusion itself. So another thing is we didn't attack Jehovah's Witnesses as the personal members. We focused onto the policy. So although we had very bad experiences with elders, with circuit overseers, with name it, and we had problems with them because they are conditioned as well, and they act as they are programmed. So there is no discussion about that. I always tell people they are drugged by religious ideas. So they are drugged and take away the drug and they react normal. Then they say, oh, my apologies for what I did to you. I did that as well. I was an elder. I disfellowshipped people. Sometimes the proof of innocence was not in the judicial committee, and by lack of proof, we had to disfellowship someone. And then later on, the disfellowshipping, the proof of the innocence came up, and I went to battle and I said, this happened, and now I have the proof that we disfellowshipped someone who was innocent. And the battle committee said, Patrick, in God's organization, there is no judicial error possible. I said, yeah, but this is an error. Yeah, but we don't have it in the handbook for elders. So then the only thing you can do is encourage that sister to come back to the Kingdom Hall. And I said, yeah, but after such an experience, do you really think that she will come back to the Kingdom Hall? Now she is happy that she not longer belonged to Jehovah's Witnesses. But I, as an elder, I disfellowshipped her. My conscience is in danger. What are you going to do about that? And he said, I'm sorry, Patrick, but you did what you had to do, and you acted to conform the rules in the book of the elders. So there is no blame on you. Yeah, but later on, I went back to that lady and I said, my apologies for what I did to you, and I explained a little bit. And she said, in fact, you helped me. Without you, maybe I was still Jehovah's Witness. And she told me stories that about the shunning. She is living in a house near the market, and she said the Jehovah's Witnesses are coming. They are looking if I'm home to see who is it with that disfellowship person. But once I come home, they turn their heads around. You know the stories. So Jehovah's Witnesses, that is another point. Are they ignorant of the impact of shunning? Yes, they are. They do it by purpose. And if you doubt about that, go to the website of gw.org. You will find an article about a family, man and wife, who use the strategy of not speaking to each other if they have a dispute, why it is wrong to not talk to each other. And then they explain why it is so harmful to avoid having contact with your inmate. So they know what they are doing. If you look into the parts of young people, you will find a whiteboard animation about bullying, how you can cope with bullying. And then they name all the elements from bullying, and one of the elements of bullying is shunning. Yeah, shunning. Jehovah's Witnesses experience often shunning because of their belief system, and they say you are bullied because you are Jehovah's Witness, and you know that it hurts. So they know exactly what the mental impact is, the psychological impact of shunning is. So they are not ignorant about the impact of shunning. You can say, yeah, but they did it because they didn't knew about how big the impact was. That was one of the things that my lawyers also told, because you cannot accuse someone from committing a crime if he is not aware of the impact of the crime, of the volume of the crime. So another thing that we were cautious in was we avoided screamers. We had people who said, take Watchtower down, destroy Jehovah's Witnesses, let them be forbidden, like in Russia. This is against freedom of religion. Jehovah's Witnesses have the right to believe whatever they want to believe. So we have respect for Jehovah's Witnesses. Do we want them to be forbidden in Denmark or in Europe or wherever? No. They have the right to do their program, to believe what they want to believe. If it is in the Bible or not doesn't matter for me. So we avoided screamers because we want a certain dignity before court. I was explaining the crime, not the Jehovah's Witnesses are doing this and believing that. And the Bible in fact tells this and that, and they are wrong. No discussion about the belief system of Jehovah's Witnesses. Will Armageddon come? I can tell you, no. So we didn't mention a word about the teaching of Jehovah's Witnesses. The only thing we did was presenting them in a light that Jehovah's Witnesses are not an innocent organization. They presented themselves, they said, look, this is our structure, this is our family life, this is how we are organized, these are our meetings, these are the attention, this is our moral standard. So they presented themselves as the best religion ever. Yeah, and well, I have to admit that I used some bad words about the Jehovah's Witnesses. I give, Belinda and I are giving speeches before classes, always between 15 and 20 years old and older. And every time we start with a picture on which all the forbidden things of Jehovah's Witnesses come after each other. And then you have birthday parties, over 100 elements forbidden in Jehovah's Witnesses. And everybody is, huh? Is that forbidden? Yeah, it's forbidden. Can you explain why? Yes, I can explain why. And I can explain also why it is rubbish. Yeah. So I can explain why they use it. And because, yeah. So, but the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses are not focused in the trial. So we avoided that. Can I do it? Yes, I can. We never called Jehovah's Witnesses a sect. In the best sentence, we called them a religious organization with sectarian characteristics. To be polite. And we named the characteristics. Yeah. Yeah. So, as I told you before, each story was checked for possible additional damage for the victims. And then we made a list of all available articles and speeches with the hate messages. So why speeches, recordings of speeches during conventions, district conventions? Why is that important? I don't know how the law in Denmark is, but in Belgium we have a rule that says if it is in a publication, then it's a press crime. And if it is a press crime, the criminal court is not responsible to handle it. They have to bring it to the court, the higher court, where murder is dealt with. So, and we know if it is considered as a press crime, the judge would put it in the rubbish ups, and nothing happens. So we wanted to avoid that it was a press crime. So we made recordings of speeches that were held on the district convention. There was one good one in 2014 about apostates, and they said they are apostates are compared to the plague, and they are a plague. So they are the pest. They literally said on the platform. So that was just shocking that apostates are called such naughty things. So another important thing is I wanted to avoid that Jehovah's Witnesses would accuse me of being after the money. And I said, I'm not after the money. It costed me a lot of money, lots of thousands of euros. But I don't want a financial compensation. I do not claim financial compensation. But in the verdict, the judge said that each and every victim should be visited by an expert to see how big the damage is, and the damage would be translated into a compensation, a financial compensation. So we are not living in the United States. What it is, it is. But we never asked for a financial compensation. So sometimes people ask me, what about the 96,000 euros that were mentioned in the verdict? Well, the 96,000 euros are not for me. They are for the state. They are for the state. It is fine. It's 96,000 euros fine, not a financial compensation for what we suffered from. So just good
I'll explain it to you.
Just imagine you are
in our
living
strategy,
in the
we explain
Nazi
that,
Germany,
also
the theocratic warfare system. Your neighbors are Jews, and you have a good relationship with those people, and you know are the Jews here Jews, and you decide you have a secret room in your cellar in your basement. So you think, okay, they are safe, and then the Gestapo is knocking on your door. Are there Jews hidden here? What are you going to say? No. Why should you say yes, there are in the basement? If you say yes, why then hide them? You want to protect them. So Jehovah's Witnesses do exactly the same. They see a very black and white world. You have Satan the devil and you have Jehovah God. And it is Satan the devil who is attacking them, and they want to protect the argument. You can't take them, you cannot take the mistake that they say, oh no, that is something we do not do, and in fact they are lying. So they just try to protect it. But you have to know that they are allowed to lie in the case of a theocratic warfare. So if the judge knows that if he is asking a question, he can receive a lie as an answer. Wait, what is happening?
Yeah, but never mind, Patrick, because maybe we should take a break.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, that's fine. 55 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes,
good.
yes.
Good. Perfect.
Good. 15 minutes break.
I agree.
We're just talking about the new modern music.
Yeah. Okay. So here we are again. If you're trying to prepare, if you are thinking about preparing a court case against the shunning policy of Jehovah's Witnesses, it is very important to have the letters, to have the letters written of the not the governing body, but the local branch office. That's the right expression, the branch office. The letters with instructions to the elders. Yeah? Then you can show to the judge what kind of instructions that the elders and Jehovah's Witnesses receive. This is a deeper translation from a letter from 6th of November 2014 to all bodies of elders about legal proceedings. And this is a translation, so if you look in the original English text, it's possible that the wording is not exactly the same, but it's about the ID. Most probably this letter exists in the Danish as well. So one of those letters was very interesting, because they say if someone tries to get confidential information, never give confidential information to anyone unless pastoral care requires it or the branch office has ordered it. For example, persons attempting to obtain confidential information might include detective, a lawyer, a policeman, other investigating officers, or government officials. This applies to both written material and unwritten knowledge that an elder has. It applies to documents relating to a specific case and to general material, such as letters from the organization, the handbook for elders, and the organized book. Even if government agencies request confidential information, you are not obliged to answer questions before you have contacted the branch office. So with this, we could prove that the branch of Jehovah's Witnesses in Brussels, in Belgium, was not just taking care of the buildings and the machines and the cars, and no, they are a religious authority. they have authority over the congregations. They said, oh, we are just a foundation, just like the 170 other foundations from the local congregations. We are just one of them. And we showed, no. They have to obey your foundation. Your foundation is more than just one of those 170 other foundations. So if you have a copy of the letters to the body of elders, it's very important that you can show it to the judge and say, look, this is what they really are. They try to hide what they are. And we have seen the same in Australia. Remember the interrogation of a member of the governing body trying to escape every question. So they are doing exactly the same because they know they are in danger and they are doing something that is completely wrong. What we explained to the judge as well is the mental gymnastics and language acrobatics of Jehovah's Witnesses. I have included a few examples. So they made a publication to the outside world in which they state Jehovah's Witnesses do not accept blood transfusions from third parties. They insinuate with this that in some cases we can accept a blood transfusion. And I asked the editor of this publication, I said, who wrote this? He said, well, we contacted Battle in Brussels. And they send us an email. Look, this is what a member of the battle committee wrote us with the name and everything included. And I said, did you ask who are the first and the second parties from which they can accept a blood transfusion? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I can show you the Watchtower question of readers about an autolog blood transfusion in which you donate blood to be stored in the fridge, and if you are 2 months later operated, then they can use your own blood to give you a transfusion, and you will be excommunicated for that. And she said, really? I've read in that email that the Jehovah's Witnesses do not longer disfellowship people for accepting a blood transfusion. I said, yeah, maybe I expressed it a little bit wrong. But I'll show you in the book, in the manual for elders, that the blood transfusion is indeed not a reason for disfellowshipping someone. It's under the paragraph of reasons for being considered as disassociated. But what is the difference between the treatment for someone who is disassociated and someone who is disfellowshipped? It's exactly the same treatment. So in fact, they do disfellowship someone who is accepting a blood transfusion. So then in the court case, Jehovah's Witnesses claimed that they know no shunning. There is no shunning. A disfellowship person is welcome in the congregation. He can attend our meetings. He may sing the songs with us. He can sing along with us. He can even pray with us. He can even make contact with their relatives in the Kingdom Hall. We are totally misrepresented. Is it true or not? Can a disfellowshipped one make contact with the relatives in the Kingdom Hall? Can. Of course he can. That's not the problem. The problem is that the family members are instructed to turn their back. Communication is impossible. But will they forbid the disfellowshipped guy to make contact with his relatives and the congregation? They cannot forbid that because they have not the authority over someone who is excluded. So they are right. They present it in the right way. The only thing is we are not discussing about what this fellowshipped guy can or cannot do. We are discussing about the instructions that are given to the members of the congregation. And those instructions are clear. Even say, hello, is already wrong. So that's the problem. Not that the disfellowshipped one is allowed to try to contact his parents or whatever. That's not the problem. Jehovah's Witnesses are represented in the lawsuit as it is. Not more, not less. So A possible strategy to think about is about the rules that Jehovah's Witnesses have. If a school has a list of rules that could be a reason to be not accepted or to be excommunicated from school, then you can hold those rules against the rules of the country. So it needs to be in line with the rules of the country. So another thing to think about is how about the legal aspect of Jehovah's Witnesses. For instance, the LGTB community, if someone declares himself a homosexual, he will be disfellowshipped and he will be shunned. The question is that according to the law, is the law in such a way that they say, Jehovah's Witnesses, you've done a good thing. This is completely as the law of Denmark is meant to be. Well, that's something that could be considered as well. So then another thing is, if I go to school or I go to a sports club, then I got the rulings. Then I got every rule that is active in that organization. So if we question Jehovah's Witnesses, are the rules handed over and are they signed for agreed by the person himself? Very often we see that the people are baptized on an age of 10 years old. Do they know what all the rules are? Is there a list of all the rules? Is there a list of all the things that are forbidden? And the answer is no, because that list that should be used, if it existed, to go from door to door and then ring the bell, say, look, we are Jehovah's Witnesses, and we try to invite you to become a Jehovah's witness, and those are the rules that you have to respect. Nobody would answer. Nobody. But now, little by little, they change your position, they change your thinking, and you agree to avoid contact with your own family, bad companionship. They can bring you in danger, so it's better to be accompanied by your brothers and sisters in the Christian congregation, by the organization who is your mother and who is providing you the spiritual food, and your father, Jehovah God, who is taking care of you. So you see, your new family is more valuable than your own family. And if you look in the recent, it's not longer the Kingdom Ministry, it's called Life and Our Service or something like that. There is a new article telling how to help Bible studies to visit the meetings, to have a good relationship with the brothers and sisters. And then they gave instructions how to break the friendship between worldly friends and the Bible student, and the family and the Bible student. So they are very targeting on breaking relationships with the people who are non-GW. So this is something that could be brought up if you look at it in a broader way. So this fellowshipping, you can ask, is that confirmed in writing? Because if you're in a sports club and you're breaking the rules, they will write you a letter and say, look, you broke the rules and you are set out of our organization. Jehovah's Witnesses are forbidden. Elders are forbidden to write down the reason why you were disfellowshipped, the reason why they warned you. They may put nothing on paper. We have that in the letters of the society, so no problem with that. But that's possibly a strategy that could be thought about. So, and then what about the rulings that we can find back in the book for elders? Is it in accordance with the criminal law, with the civil law, with the human rights? Will the church court, the judicial committee, become a parallel court? There are some countries that do not accept that there is a separated from the official court, that there is an external court making decisions that should be handed over, like child abuse, that the child abuse has been handled in the congregation and never told to the police. Well, that is something that could be thought about. Is this a parallel court that is trying to avoid the official court in the country? Well, that is something that can be done. So you can zoom in on the damage that is caused by the shunning, and then we have a parental alienation. So it's not the first one who is disfellowshipped and who saw his relation ending in a divorce, and then the children are alienated from the disfellowshipped parent. So this is a cruel thing. We heard recently someone telling, it was Simon. Simon, how long ago was it that you have seen your children? Your daughter?
Yeah. My daughter, 8 years.
8 years. You see, this is parental alienation. And in Belgium, in every case, any case, we know that the parental alienation is brought before court. Yeah. And I think in Denmark, there should be something similar as well. So that is something that a lawyer can maybe help us out. But I think parental alienation is something that can be considered. Yeah? That's family law, I think. Yeah. Okay. Good. So in fact, that's a bit my story. If there are some questions, please feel free to ask the question you want. No questions. Did I see a question? Sorry. Yeah.
Did it seem like the judge understood like how manipulative the Jehovah's Witnesses are?
Completely.
Completely?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's lucky.
Yeah.
Okay.
The judge said very explicit, religion is not standing above the law.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Simon?
The thing about you said about it was important that we could have some letters from the local branch.
Yep.
I would say perhaps it's enough that we have the book for the elders with all the instructions, but you don't think so?
Well, they say the book is not written by the local branch. We are not responsible for what is in this book.
Okay.
Yeah. Those instructions are not coming from us. And I say, yes, you're responsible for the control on the congregation and the members of the congregation, that they respect those rules that are coming from the governing body. So take away the authority of the local branch office, and it's done. It's done. Everybody is free to obey or to disobey. But you are controlling it. You are the controlling element. And they say, yeah, but our foundation is just a legal entity to take care of the buildings, of the equipment, and so on. And I say, no, you're a religious authority. And I proved it. Yeah, I proved it by a letter that was about a question from several elders in Belgium about giving sweet things as a present by the birth of a baby. Yeah. So normally this is given when the baby in the Roman Catholic Church is baptized, and then they gave presents, sweet things, some cookies or and the question was, what if a sister has a baby, and brothers and sisters are visiting her and the newborn baby in hospital, and she has some sweets that she can give to the visitors. Is this allowed or is it not allowed? Can it be done or can it not be done? But because this is a very local habit, it is not something that is written in the publications of Jehovah's Witnesses. So they wrote to the branch office, and the branch office made a complete analysis and said, look, on the basis of what the Bible is telling us, this is the decision. Yeah. So they are a religious authority. If someone has doubts, they say you can or you cannot. Yeah. So therefore, it's important to have the availability of those letters, a copy of those letters. Yeah. Frank?
So you won the first battle.
Yeah.
Over the watchtower.
The second battle.
The second.
The prosecutor considered it as a crime. That was the first battle. And then the judge said, yes, you're 100% correct.
Yes. And then this Tuesday, the day after tomorrow, because they appealed.
Yeah.
Now you're going back to court.
Yeah.
Do you have high expectations that you're going to win again, or
Yeah.
are you a little bit afraid
I don't-
of Massimo?
To be honest, I don't care.
You don't?
I don't care. Because if I lose the case, then I ended the whole way of a judicial system in Belgium. And then I'm in a position that I can say, yeah, listen, I lost the case, but now I can go to the European Court
Of human rights.
of Human Rights. Yeah. And then we are higher up. Yeah. So I have to wait till the complete trajectory of judicial system in Belgium is ended. And if Jehovah's Witnesses lose again, the chance that they will go to the European Court is existing. I believe they have the guts to go to the European Court, and then I come with them. Anyhow, I don't care. Whatever happens, the publicity is there, the awareness is there, that it is possible to win a case against God, against... yeah.
Do you have any idea already now if it has changed something in Belgium already inside Jehovah's Witnesses? Do you have any feeling if the elders or the organization have kind of pulled back a little bit about the fellowshipping?
No, no. You see that they just go on. Nothing can happen to them. And in fact, they are counter-attacking us. Some of the civil parties were physically threatened, emotionally threatened, physically threatened. No, I cannot say physically threatened, but some were accused by family members for misbehavior against young children, sexual misbehavior against young children 16 years ago. 16 years ago. Why didn't you came up with that earlier? But it is connected to the court case. So they want to undermine the reputation of each and every disfellowshipped person with accusations who are resting on nothing. There was one guy, an older man, who was disfellowshipped last year, and he had given his computer with an elder to install Zoom, as far as you should install Zoom, it's just online. But he took his computer, asked his password, and he entered his computer. And that guy made a video of, he asked a professional filmmaker to make a video of his and his wife having sex. And that the elder was looking to that film, to that movie. And now that he is in the court case, he says, yeah, but you are not, he got a phone call from Bethel himself, and he said, Danny, you know, you are not only excluded for apostasy, you are excluded for pornography as well. So they tried to blow up the whole thing because he said there is no pornography on my computer. It's only a film about me and my wife, and that's it. So they have nothing to see with that. Yeah, but the fact that it is on your computer, you're guilty of having pornography. Yeah. So and I can tell several things that they counterattack. So they go really after. The family members, some said, okay, I'm still taking care of my older mother who needs care. And and now everything is broken. What, sister? Do you still have contact with your daughter? Yes, I need her help. Yeah, but this is breaking the rules of the Bible. You're disappointing God. And I can no longer have contact with you. The elders told me that it is forbidden to have contact. Even if you want to help me, it's forbidden. Where there is a watchtower who is explaining that you can receive help, you can even give help to a disfellowshipped member of your family. So now they are putting pressure on the whole thing to break everything that they can break. So are they going to counterattack? Yes, they are already busy.
How did you get the letters you need from the body of elders?
When I was an elder, keen on being conform the instructions, and I knew it was forbidden to have copies of the letters, but I made several copies of letters. So, and I think there are more elders who did exactly the same, just to have the feeling, okay, I'm completely conform the rulings that are given by the society. I don't want to make a mistake. This is my conscience. I want to do the job that I received and that I accepted wholehearted. So it was not with the target of using it against Jehovah's Witnesses. No, it was because I wanted to be a good elder who acted completely conform what the Jehovah's Witnesses are telling. And sometimes you have an elder who is physically in, mentally out, and you can ask him, look, we are looking for this letter or that letter. Can we receive that from you? Can you make a copy of it? And very often they give you that copy. And once you have it, you can use it.
So it's a question about the right contact.
Yeah. Okay. The same with the book for elders. We are very lucky. When the file, when the complaint was filed, then the justice gave orders to the police to go to battle, and they took a book for elders digitally, and we were very lucky that it was not only the book, but someone had made a job of it to make all references to watchtowers and watchtower publications, and it is a file with over 900 pages to make sure that all information was in the same file, and that file was taken to court. So that is something that we didn't have to bring to court. It was already in the, because the police did an attack on yeah.
Do you still have that file?
Yeah.
So we could get it and
yeah, but it's
use
in
it
Dutch.
for the Danish. Yeah, it's in Dutch. Yeah, but that's kind of
Is it
difficult.
all in Dutch?
I actually know a Dutch guy who is Danish also, so he can translate it.
Yeah.
But I don't know about 900 pages. But
No, I was just like comparing the numbers and the quotations. Perhaps the references we could translate.
Yeah,
it's possible.
But I use .com for translations, and it works very well. You can select the text, double click on Ctrl+CC, and you get immediately a window that is opening and gives you the translation and the language you chose. Yeah, but you can select also translate a Word document or a PowerPoint. You take it, you put it in the box, and you say translate it into Danish, and immediately it's and it puts the translation is put back in the file where you took it from. So you get the translation immediately, and it's only a checkup, but it translates better than Google Translate. Yeah. It's a very good translating machine. Yeah. DeepL.com could be very useful. Good. So, if there are no questions anymore, then I want to thank you for your presence and Belinda and I believe that it is possible to create an avalanche of judicial court cases. We are very often contacted. Are you the guy that won the court case in Belgium? Yes, I am. We are even contacted by members of other religious groups who said, well, the shunning is used by us as well. I'm a victim of shunning. What can we do? And we get the same information because there are so many parallels that you can copy and paste it to almost any country. So probably the next country will be the Czech Republic. The country thereafter will be, I think, Austria or Switzerland. So we are just traveling and looking around how we can inspire people to have the feeling that shunning is a crime and you can fight it. Yeah, this is not fighting Jehovah's Witnesses. This is fighting a crime. So people ask me sometimes, why do you attack Jehovah's Witnesses? I say, this is the wrong choice of words. I'm not attacking Jehovah's Witnesses. Look, if someone breaks in my house and steal things from me, and I come home and I see who did it, do I have the right to go to the police and say, look, that guy, he broke in my house and he stole my things? Am I attacking the thief? No, I'm just saying I'm a victim of robbery and I have the right to get my things back. So we do exactly the same with Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm a victim of a crime and I'm just complaining to justice and say I'm a victim of shunning.
What is the best case scenario for this? Do you expect the governing body to undo the rules of shunning, or the governments to something interact?
No, I do not expect that. But what we know is that if shunning is recognized as a crime, then Jehovah's Witnesses are not only a religious organization with cultic characteristics, but they will become a criminal religious organization.
Can I say something? The goal for, if we should do it in Denmark, I think should not be to get, get the money or something, but to make a government decision that they're not an established religious organization, so they would lose the tax refunds.
Yep.
Let's say that's about 50 million Danish kroner each year. So that would help to, contain the problem and make it less. That would be a big issue if we could do that in Denmark.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Anyhow, it's just about the recognition that shunning is a crime. That's all. And we do agree about that. Yeah. Okay. So I know we are live stream. I just to say hello to all the friends all over the world. We are not alone here. This is not fake. You cannot see the faces, but we are about how many people? I think 25, something like that. Yeah. So greetings from Denmark, and be inspired to bring shunning before court.
But if people don't mind, we can stand with you in front of the camera.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
we have news in Denmark too.
If you are not in danger to damage yourself more than you are already damaged.
Oh, that is not possible.
That is. Good.
Yep.
Say cheese.
Say cheese, just waiting from Denmark. If he can do it, everybody can do it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.